Right, I'm just brewing up a pale ale today. This is sort of a recipe that I'm trying to improve on a previous brew that I've done. So got a bit of pale malt, some caramel malt, and a bit of Munich. And the hops I'm going to use is probably some Rewalker and Columbus, which I've got on hand and which I also used in the amber ale that I did previously. Today's experiment is to use the trusty auto siphon and see if I can actually underlet this. So I'm going to chuck it on the floor and feed my strike water through the siphon. See if that works. Well, I've now got it siphoning out of there. The old auto siphon wasn't a huge fan of the hot water, but it seems to be going through, so that's a good sign. Down into my bucket of grands there. As you can see, it's now finished siphoning. Seems to have done the trick. I haven't attempted stirring it yet, but I'm hoping doing it this way has sort of reduced the amount of dough balls in there. I've just given this a bit of a stir up and it's actually worked really well, bringing the water in through the bottom there. The only downside is it's knocked my temperature a little bit further down than expected, so it's sitting down around 61 at the moment, so I'm just going to add a little bit of hot water just to bring that up to about 65. I'm currently just heating up some sparge water, so I'm going to basically do the same thing I did my last brew day with my amber ale, except the only thing different today, I'm going to do some first wort hopping. I've basically got this hop bag here that's I just made from some paint strainer bags. I sewed a couple of them together just to give it a bit of a finer mesh. So essentially once I start running the wort through, I'll basically just chuck this in here, and I just tend to tie it around one of the handles here and it does its thing. So I tend to use this for any boil hopping I do, because it just means I get so much less of the hop gunk ending up having to deal with later, and it's just really simple to pull this out and chuck it down the sink. So my current brewing approach has been a little bit haphazard, and I've sort of just been brewing any random beer that's come to mind, so I sort of thought I'd maybe get a little bit more intentional about it and try and focus on just two beers. The sort of reason being, I guess, if you focus on one beer and then keep brewing it and tweaking it, it gets a bit tedious, and unless two beers, you get to sort of swap between them. So this beer I'm brewing today is actually a revision of a pale ale that I produced. So this is just an Excel spreadsheet that I put together that sort of I use to basically plan out my recipes. I sort of end up tweaking this, so it's a bit of a work in progress. So for this one, I've revised the malt bill from last time, so I've got rid of some of the crystal, which I didn't really like, and replaced it with caramel malt, and I've also dialed back the Munich that I'm using. And I've also changed out, I think last time I used some Styrian Gouldings, and I've changed that for Columbus. I quite like the sort of earthy character that the Columbus was giving that I got in the amber ale that I did, so I'm hoping to bring some of that through. So I'm going to use some of the Columbus in a first wort hopping technique, and then some of the Rewalker and Columbus in the cube, hopefully to really give some good flavour and a bit of aroma. I'm kind of trying to avoid dry hopping, even though I've done it in the past. I'm just sort of keen to see if I can get away without doing it. Maybe once I move on to doing an IPA, I'll definitely use that again, but sort of at this stage I just sort of want to see how much hop character I can get without resorting to dry hopping. So I'm just starting to run some of the wort through here. probably just fill up this pitcher and then chuck that back through, and then I'll run it into my brew kettle. You can set the hot bag in place there, so I've got some of the Columbus sitting in there, so that'll be sitting in the wort as it starts to come through. I've got some reasonably clear wort flowing down into the brew kettle now. I've got a bit more time to play with today, so I can just let that trickle away and do its thing. You already start to smell the hops, which is good. So just starting to come up to the boil here. We're going to go for around a 60-minute boil today. I'll probably just actually boil it until I get down to my final volume. This is going to be a 10 litre batch, and then I'll chuck it in the cube, and I'm going to have around 25 grams of Rewalker in the cube and another, I think, 5 grams of Columbus. I'm just coming up to the end of my boil here, so it's been going, yeah, just coming up an hour. I've added some Irish moss a few minutes ago, so I'll transfer it across to the cube. Already chucked some hops in there, so yeah, basically we just need to transfer that across, cool it down, and yeah, pitch it into my fermenter. I just punched in my figures here looking at my brew house efficiency. So my gravity reading is 1053, and it was for 11 litres. I'm going to lose some of that once I transfer it off out of the cube, because there's a fair bit of trube and crap in there. So hopefully I'll finish up with about 10 litres, but anyway, it basically gives me an efficiency of 73.92, which is good. I got about 70 last time I used this little mash tun idea, which is, yeah, pretty good. Can't complain about that. So hopefully everything else goes to plan.